When the war ended and soldiers returned, they found that Louisiana was becoming a very different place than the one they had left. All along the Mississippi River, between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, petrochemical plants were constructed or expanded. Oil production in the state jumped from 100 million barrels per year in 1940 to double that amount by the end of the decade. And the Standard Oil refinery in Baton Rouge came to employ 10,000 workers.
Electricity came to homes in Louisiana during the 1940s, many homes that had never had it before. Louisiana was urbanized. Cities like Monroe, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria grew rapidly. And there were many, many changes.
Families were now seeing more of their sons and daughters going to college than ever before. Huey Long's devotion to Louisiana State University had boosted the school's stature and attracted nationally renowned intellectuals. The university was home to the seminal literary movements represented in the Southern Review and to writers like Cleonth Brooks and Robert Penn Warren.
They were vigorous, creative minds, eager to get on with the study of literature, get on with a new way to approach literature.
Warren's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, All the King's Men, was inspired by his observation of Huey Long.
He was writing that book during World War II, and he often said himself he had as much Mussolini in mind as he did Huey Long, that it was the question of the way that power was grasped, how it was exerted, how it came to affect people for the good and the bad. So he's looking at a political issue about leadership immediately after, the book comes out immediately after World War II, at a time when the whole issue of what kind of leadership, what kind of government can the free world maintain.
Penn Warren is just one of the greatest writers who ever lived, and he did it all. He wrote essays, criticism, plays. He was an educator, a member of the fugitive movement. He was a great novelist, a Pulitzer Prize winner. He was a magnificent poet. There was nothing he did not achieve.
Outside of LSU, the vibrant literary climate of Louisiana continued to foster native talent and to lure flourishing new writers. It was during this period that playwright Tennessee Williams settled in the French Quarter and peopled the American stage with slow, smoldering characters like Blanche Dubois and Stella Kowalski.
He was just a marvelous writer, and certainly for actors, and for women. He understood women, I think, more so than most playwrights. He knew how to bring it out. Lovely sense of poetry in all of his writing, I must say. So rich for the exploration of the characters. It was rich, and I miss him a great deal.
In the 1940s, we see a sort of high mark for Louisiana presence in the national consciousness. Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire premiered. Lillian Hellman's All the Little Foxes, and then Another Part of the Forest, Toys in the Attic, all these Louisiana plays on Broadway. It was an extraordinary time for Louisiana and New Orleans to be in the national imagination.
Louisiana was even starting to sound different. Just as this had been the cradle of jazz a generation earlier, Louisiana continued to be a place of tremendous musical innovation. Hughie Ledbetter, better known as Leadbelly, popularized songs like Goodnight Irene, Midnight Special, and Pickin' Cotton. Although he grew up in Shreveport, he was more often associated with another part of Louisiana, Angola.
Leadbelly is a mythic figure in American culture broadly, and not just Louisiana culture. It comes from the fact that he touched a number of different kinds of audiences. Then he had the situation that he was imprisoned a couple of different times for murder, and found himself in a couple of different times singing his way out of prison, or at least getting the attention of the warden.
Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I guess you in my dream.
In New Orleans, rhythm and blues and rock and roll were fast replacing jazz as the city's favorite music.
Found my thrill.
Fats Domino, Lloyd Price, Smiley Lewis, and then you begin to get more of a pop sound with people like Alan Toussaint coming in and adding to it. In North Louisiana, of course, Jerry Lee Lewis. Just like Fats is the Buddha-like, smiling, genteel Creole gentleman of New Orleans with sweetness in all directions. Jerry Lee's the sort of snarling hellfire killer man of the North.
I changed my mind. This love is fine. For goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
Great balls of fire. In one expression, that's kind of like the Holy Spirit meets sexuality, all in one line.